Our top local story this morning is that Australia has joined 24 other nations, including the UK and France, in condemning Israel over the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians seeking aid in recent weeks. The statement accuses Israel of, quote, an unacceptable denial of humanitarian aid, adding the Israeli government aid delivery model is dangerous and deprives Gazans of human dignity. Hamas has applauded that. Israel has criticised it. Joining us live now is the former IDF spokesperson and the senior fellow at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. It's Jonathan Conricus. Good to have you with us again this morning, Jonathan. So let's first of all start with your reaction to that statement by, as I mentioned, Australia and the UK, as well as France and others. What's your response?
Yes, good morning. I'm saddened by it because, plainly speaking, I think it's wrong. I think it's simplistically looking at the situation and picking the wrong side for who's accountable and who should be held accountable for the situation in Gaza. Yes, Israel is fighting, but this situation isn't Israel's fault. The war was started by Hamas. It could have ended a long, long time ago, many times over, if Hamas had surrendered and given up the hostages. What they are doing is keeping Gazan civilians as their hostage. They are using them both on the battlefield as their human shields, and now they're benefiting from their suffering. And I am saddened that so many Western governments are falling for Hamas propaganda and not seeing the reality, the cruel, horrible reality in Gaza under Hamas for what it really is, and doing the easy thing, which is to blame the Jewish state for what's going on.
Well, I mean, killing innocent civilians, including women and children, I mean, do you accept any responsibility for that?
Yes, but I would advise a lot of caution when allocating blame and responsibility to Israel. I think that what's going on is an orchestrated campaign in Gaza led by Hamas, but lots of tailwind or help from UN organizations, the so-called humanitarian ecosystem, and a lot of help in the media, where they are simply amplifying what Hamas is saying. If there are alleged casualties in Gaza, they blame it on Israel. Nobody verifies it. There's no proof of anything. It is Hamas saying it. And then it is reported across international media as if it is true and as if it really is exactly what happened. It's a war zone where horrible things are happening. The war zone is controlled by a terrorist organization, Hamas. They have been offered multiple ceasefires, and just a few hours ago, Israel made additional concessions and additional flexibility to actually agree to Hamas demands on how the ceasefire would look like, and where Israeli troops would be deployed. So but they're not taking it, and they're refusing.
Let's just try and break this down. So, I mean, just on that figure of up to 1,000 civilians who've been killed in recent weeks, I mean, if you dispute that, what's the accurate figure?
The honest and short answer is that I don't know, and I don't think that anybody knows truly how many civilians have been killed.
But women and children are being killed?
I have no doubt, sadly, that civilians have been killed. And I have also no doubt that Israel isn't intending to kill anybody, especially not civilians that are coming to food distribution centers that Israel is manning. But the situation on the ground is that Hamas doesn't want the alternate humanitarian effort to succeed.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jonathan. What's the threat?
Yeah, but this is important, though. This is really important because the alternate humanitarian system with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a real threat to Hamas. If food doesn't come in through Hamas's hands and UN hands, which are in cahoots with Hamas, if it doesn't go through Hamas's hands, then Hamas has less leverage over the population. That is why Hamas is instigating violence at those locations. That is why Hamas is on a media offensive to create the false narrative, which we're seeing now in the media, which sadly is being repeated here and many other places.
I get your explanation on things, but I'm just trying to work out why so many civilians are being killed. I get your point. It's not that high number. But I mean, if you're a well-qualified army with a lot of battlefield experience now, can you not tell the difference between someone who represents Hamas and, say, a child?
Well, when did you last see a Hamas fighter fight in uniform? I've been inside the Gaza Strip and I've seen
But you mean,
Hamas
you'd be able to
fighters many
tell
times.
if someone was a child, right, or a woman.
Yes, but it's also very difficult, and the situations on the ground isn't that these are just women and children advancing. What's happening on the ground is that Hamas creates pressure at these humanitarian sites and pushes people forward, and also uses live fire in order to create stampedes and to create a pressure on the ground. And in addition, as you said in the beginning, people are hungry and they are desperate for food. And when they think that they have an opportunity to get access to food, then they will do even dangerous things. And that's how situations are created on the ground, where Israeli soldiers that are trying to provide security for the humanitarian organizations are confronted with thousands of advancing Palestinians, who many of them may be women and children, but there are also Hamas operatives and other armed thugs that are trying to incite a situation and create that instability and mayhem. And in order for eventually, the strategic aim here is to stop the provision of this aid, because that serves Hamas's purposes. And I think it's really important to keep in mind who stands to gain from Israel stopping the flow of humanitarian aid through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The only organization that would be benefited from that is Hamas. They are trying to stop it, and they're using Palestinians, they're using international media in order to do it. And of course, it's sad that civilians, women and children, are being killed. But the saddest thing is that the culprit is getting away with it. And judging by the letter that you just quoted in the beginning, they seem to be fooling Western governments. And I think that's sad. At the end of the day, nothing positive will happen in Gaza as long as Hamas stays in power. It will not be rebuilt. There will not be peace as long as Hamas stays in power. The first and most basic condition for dignified existence for Palestinians and peace and quiet is the complete removal of Hamas, the return of Israeli hostages. Until that happens, nothing good will happen.
OK, we'll have to leave it there. But Jonathan, good to have you with us again today.